Performance comes down to controlling what you can. For Jessica Pagula, it starts with the air around her. A Blue Air user for over 5 years, she trusts Blue Signature air purifiers, engineered to perform and designed to impress. Shop blueair.com and use code SIGNATURE30.
Bubba Wallace here from 2311 Racing. You know what's slower than a pace car? Waiting at the car wash. That's when I fire up Chumba Casino. It turns those slow minutes into fast fun. With new games every week, you'll never get bored. Next time you're stuck in the slow lane, speed up with Chumba. Play now at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to Son Coaches Podcast, and today I'm joined by the Executive Director of the Georgia Fired Football Coaches Association, as always, Coach Ed Gafca. Thanks for being on with us.
Always happy to be here, Coach.
Well, we made it through Thanksgiving. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. We talked off air. We both agreed that we were satisfied with our break and our Thanksgiving, and now we had some round 2 games, and the semis are set, and they're still today finally ended the drama of the Gainesville versus the Georgia High School Association, or vice versa, however you want to spin it. And I personally have said all I'm going to say on the matter, commented all I'm going to or want to, and I guarantee that you were going to have something to say about it, more information about it, as you've been Johnny on the spot with information, following up on stuff. And I know you would still have some things to share about that situation, as it's finally come to a close, and there's going to be football between Gainesville and Langston Hughes this Friday.
Yeah, and just to clear things up, and any new followers that have just recently joined because of the Gainesville stuff, understand this. My entire header up there is just relaxed and satire. We are not a news organization by any stretch. It just so happens that we just were plugged in with the right folks, and they were able to provide some very up to date and willing to share with us here at the GHSA, and we're very thankful for that. But when it comes down to it, we have finally, I guess you could say there was a somewhat of a resolution, or at least a way forward, to where the GHSA announced that the game would take place this Friday. So basically, the judge's ruling for Gainesville is going to be in place. Gainesville is sitting out the 4 players that they identified that threw punches or were involved in the altercation. So I do believe that includes two starters. I don't know what 2 starters, and quite frankly, I don't know if it even matters. The reality here is all of this could have been avoided. All of the headache, all of the drama, everything could have been avoided. But instead, we had this dog and pony show and, pissing contest between, GHSA and Gainesville for, the better part of, 10 days. And the only people that suffered in this were, the kids and the communities that, were affected. But, now they are going to move forward with the game on Friday. Everybody else in the semis for 5A will have a bye week, just like Gainesville and Langston Hughes got to experience this past week. I'm very interested to see, what product both teams put out there. I think that Langston Hughes is going to have a little bit of anger to get off their chest, and I think they might, if they have the opportunity to put their foot on their throat, they will. But also, I think Gainesville has a little bit of motivation to go out there and, prove everybody wrong and see if they can't make a very awkward trophy presentation, come the state championships in the Dome. I think Langston Hughes might be the best team in 5A. But, we play the games for a reason. So, Gainesville's definitely a good football team. But ultimately, I think what ended up happening is the GHSA realized that, okay, we're going to file this appeal to the appellate court. Now, appellate court is basically just a group of judges that review the Superior Court judge's decision. And in order to do that, you have to officially file with that Superior Court. The clerk has to take all the notes, the briefs, and everything and submit it up. Well, per law, basically the appellate court would then have 30 days to go through all of the information. The brief that would be submitted by the GHSA's lawyers would then, you would have a response brief written by the Gainesville attorney, and then the GHSA's attorney would be able to write a response to that one, and that's where the brief stops. But once those are in, it's 30 days from the submission of that. So really, you're not even able to get a ruling within 30, 60, 90 days. So we would have probably been playing these games in February at this rate. But again, I think that they're probably saying, okay, we're not, they haven't officially filed anything. They haven't filed anything. They just said the words, we have an intent to appeal this decision, which if you're an Office fan, it's like when Michael Scott just declares bankruptcy. You can't do that, right? Like, you can't just declare bankruptcy and that's what happens, similar to what GHSA did. Now, I do applaud both sides and, at least find a way to get this game going, just because if it were to be prolonged anymore, I think Langston Hughes, Rome, Roswell, and PCC should all come to the table and have their voices heard. So I am happy about that. I will say I got sent a message in the DMs referring to an August 22nd game between Northeast and Southwest Macon. And, somehow I was able to find the video of the incident that did take place. And after doing some more research, I did find it kind of interesting that after reviewing the film, officials only fined both teams $1,500, suspended a total of 7 players, and placed them on what they refer to as severe warning status for the remainder of the season, which is I think in large part similar to what they did in Animal House, which was the double secret probation that they were put on. So I think it's all bullshit. I think that the reason we're here is it's not that every coach doesn't know the rule. Every coach knows the rule. It is the simple fact that the enforcement and application of the rule was so mishandled by the GHSA, their wording of it, that, again, it makes it look like an unprofessional organization, one that does not give a shit about, transparency or keeping things kind of equal across the board, which, again, we all know. As coaches, we all know that they're not about equality. I mean, shit, there's nothing about equality in there. Because if they were, again, some teams would have a much harder time getting players in the door. Some teams would, not have to go down there and go to the, hardship and go all the way down there and explain, like with their, hat out asking for change from them. And meanwhile, you've got a kid that is standing there beside you that's 5'6", 175 pounds, but his family's all pieces of shit that moved him from house to house to house. And but they have the gall to tell him no, he's ineligible as a senior. Now that kid isn't even going to probably graduate because he has no reason to come to school anymore. It's that kind of bullshit that pisses you off. And that's the transparency I'm talking about. And that's the reason why we're in this situation. You get so many people hot and bothered by it. It's not because I think all of us agree that anybody that left the sideline should be suspended. Where we all also agree is the 11 folks that were on the field have again, there's no justification for suspending them. There's just not. That's asinine. It's stupid. And the GHSA walked right into that. Again, hindsight is always 20/20. There's no doubt about it. But I think as leaders, you should have the ability to not put your foot in your mouth and not look like a dumbass when all eyes are on you. I'm sorry that is my minimum requirement here. But if we can't do that, if we are going to continue down this road, it's going to be a long-ass battle for the GHSA moving forward. There's already a bunch of people that are pissed at them. So, from my standpoint, I'm happy that the game's moving on. Everything will shake out in the end. I think the champions, it's going to be the champion regardless. Do I think it'll be Gainesville? I don't. But I also think that, you're in the quarters now, semis, and the reality is there are no bad teams left. And everyone has a good opportunity, to win unless you're in Creekview's classification, because boys are just going to run through that thing. But yeah, so that's kind of my breakdown of where we're at with it. There's no real update on if they're still pursuing it or not. They haven't said. Quite frankly, I could give a shit if they still pursue it. I think they should if they want to save face, or at least come out and say, hey, this is why we're not pursuing it, right? Or this is where we're at. This is the deal that we have, we realize the error in our judgment of suspending the 11 kids on the field. Hand up on that one. But again, you're asking buffoons to make smart decisions. And all of us have been in education long enough to realize a lot of times leadership in education is ran by, buffoons. So that's all I got on that, Coach.
Round 2, there were some great games, some great matchups. I told you off air, and I've told some other people I talked to that I wasn't so much surprised by some of the teams that won second round games. It was the way the scores. Some of the lopsided scores were a little surprising, but I guess sometimes that happens if two different, stylistically two teams don't really match up, or somebody's just firing on all 8 cylinders one night and the other team just falls apart. It can get away from you, like in the case of Benedictine scoring 80 against Central Kelton. Central Kelton was a good football team. I mean, it wasn't like they were the Our Lady of the Blind, Deaf, and Dumb and ain't never seen a football before. It just ran to a buzzsaw, and it had to have been the perfect storm of things going poorly. I did keep up with it while we were out of town on the other side of the river in L.A. last week, and I saw that Walton gave Valdosta all they wanted.
Yeah, I was watching that game, and, Valdosta really was in control of the game for the most part. Towards the end of that game, and then there was a flurry of big plays made by Walton to just keep their foot on the gas and control what they could control. So I was impressed with Walton being able to continue their season, but ultimately Valdosta were able to bang the dang 10 roof down there to victory. And I did think that
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Another checkered flag for the books. Time to celebrate with Chumba. Jump in at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. CT&Cs. 21+. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
Like you said, I think Benedictine scored again. I mean, shit, you score 80 points on anybody. Now, I'm a believer in karma to a certain extent, especially football karma. If you score 80 and you're running that thing up, I got to be honest with you. I don't love how it bodes well for you moving forward, but I've never been at a place where you can score 80 and get away with it. My luck, I would have had a star player get injured in that process. I was never at a place that was good enough to have the Gunnar Stocktons of the world, and your Vandegriffs that can sit there and run up scores to try to get state highlights and state records and things of that nature when you're up 63-0. But I digress. I just want everybody to know that we've all been on a sideline before where you're getting your ass kicked. And every single coach that has been on that other sideline of that, and they know they're getting it ran up on them, trust me, they all take a mental note of one day if I have a team that's good enough, no matter what, I'm going to hang 100 points on them, 100 points. And that's where I'm at with certain teams that I already mentioned. But yeah, so between Benedictine dominating, North Gwinnett was able to hold off West Forsyth in a really tough game. The surprise, I guess, would be Carrollton. Just kind of storming the gates on Grayson. Grayson and Carrollton were really kind of going back and forth there early, and then Carrollton kind of stretched their legs and were able to just really execute down the stretch. So they ended up beating them 36-14, and then obviously with their slow, methodical, just I'm gonna boa constrictor, toss right, toss left, play action pass, and rinse and repeat to a 30-15 win against Douglas. I think that's the third time they played Douglas in the last 12 months. So Douglas probably like, this is bullshit. I don't want to play these guys again. I get it. I mean, it sucks, but yeah, that was our big classification. What'd you think of 5A?
5A was about what I thought it was going to be honest with you. I mean, I've had TCC all year. I know Langston Hughes is very talented. I understand the Rome-Jackson County game was a good game. I don't really know, but it looked like it was a good game. It's probably a good game. But I wouldn't be shocked to see Thomas County Central and Langston Hughes in the finals. That wouldn't surprise me on down the road with that. I was surprised the way Kell beat Cartersville in the other classification. That kind of surprised me. I wasn't surprised that they won. I was just surprised that they won the way they did. Again, just like you said with Carrollton, I would have had a hard time believing that a 5'7" little white youngin would rip through the line of scrimmage, and as fast as he is, and as good a ball player as he is, and he's only got an offer from West Georgia, and that other team over there has got 11 D1s standing over there, and they can't do anything to stop him. And I mean, it's high school football. That's what makes it great. That's what makes it's so fun to watch and fun to be a fan of, as you see kids step up and have monumental performances. And it ain't the size of the dog in the fight; it's the size of the fight in the dog. So that's pretty cool to see as far as that goes. So as far as the other larger classification games go, that's more your purveyance. I'll let you have that one, and I'll take the A and low A.
Yeah, so in 5A, honestly, you had Thomas County Central kind of continue their march towards the Dome, and Roswell and Squirt was a hell of a football game, and Roswell was able to come up on top of that. So, that region champion from that Gainesville region with Milton is making their appearance in Final Four, and Roswell does a hell of a job with their quarterback and their quarterback run game. They're willing to run his ass 30 times. And, I'll be interested to see how Thomas County Central, now with a bye week before it, now they got extra time to prepare. So, probably got to lean Thomas County Central on that. But, Jackson County and Rome was a absolute dogfight. 17-17 at half. Jackson County did a hell of a job. Both sides of the ball. And then, after halftime, it was kind of like Rome, somebody, had a come to Jesus meeting with that defensive line, and they really cranked it up in the second half. And, basically said that running back and, one of those receivers, they are not going to beat us. you're going to have to do it, throwing to somebody else and handing it to somebody else. And I got to tell you, it was impressive to watch. It was 24-17 with, a few minutes to go, and Rome ended up scoring a quarterback sneak on the 1 yard line. It's about 12 seconds left to push that to 31-17. So that is a very good looking Rome team that, I think that they're going to give anybody a difficult time as long as they remember they should probably throw, hitches at some point. They've got some of the best receivers and a good quarterback, but, everything was just pushing down. Yeah, there was no intermediate. There was just a lot of, hey, just take what they give you. They're giving you something. Just go ahead and throw it, right? And so that was a little bit, interesting to see. But again, Jackson County did a good job, and ultimately Rome was the better football team. Made more plays at the end. As for 4A, obviously you had a rematch of the state title last year with Marist and North Oconee, and Marist was able to upset North Oconee. Buster Faulkner was able to somehow make it from Midtown Atlanta to North Oconee to be able to be at that game for kickoff. The magic of private aviation, I'm sure, helped him there. Benedictine, just scored on Central again. Creekside got held to, I think, their season low of 35 points and won 35-7. So, again, now Kell putting it on Cartersville after Cartersville hung 64 on one of Robbins, definitely very, very surprising in terms of just kind of that point output. But Kell is really rolling right now. So maybe Kell can have lightning in a bottle and beat Creekside, or at least hold them to, under 35. I mean, I right now that might be a dang track meet. So you got Benedictine and Marist, which is, that's going to be, if you want to go see two teams just all combine have just multiple cases of CTE, go to the Benedictine Marist. They're just going to be banging heads the entire time. And it's going to be good, hard-nosed high school football. And, just two great coaches. And then you can drive on over to see Creekside and Kell, and they're just going to put a billion points on the board. So, yeah, 4A, again, we've got the four best left there. And then in AAA, Cairo jumped out to a 21-0 lead on Jefferson. And then after, I guess, Jefferson just had to wake up a little bit, and ultimately they outscored them 47-7 the rest of the way in the last three quarters, and just poured it on them. Coach Nolan called a hell of a game, and again, it's power right, power left, counter left, and then play action. And they mixed it in so well, and they did an excellent job, really just making Cairo uncomfortable. Again, I don't know why Cairo didn't go back to their scripted first 10 plays that seemed to be working. I don't think they ran power read one more time after they gashed them on it. So they might want to file that one away for a later date. West Lawrence was able to beat Jenkins. Now Jefferson has West Lawrence. Still think Jefferson's probably going to get that one. And then LaGrange and 15 seed Grangers are still on their way. They were able to beat Stevenson 24-7. Now they get Sandy Creek. I'm a big fan of LaGrange's quarterback and running back. I think Sandy Creek's got a creature at running back, and they got creatures all around. I think Sandy Creek's going to win that one. And I think you'll end up having a Jefferson versus Sandy Creek state championship game. As for, your AA, those are going to be more of your folks, so I'll let you take it.
Yeah, so in AA, you had Carver Columbus won again, which was not really a surprise. I think Sumter might be the only group that's got a chance to be on the field with them. Burke County's win over Rockmart, that the last 2 minutes of that game that'll be hard to deal with. I mean, they score, they get an onside kick, they've got 25 seconds, they score in 2 plays, they win by 1. Two great coaching staffs, got friends on both staffs, and I mean that's just rough when you get to that point. Like you said, at this point in the season, you get to this time, everybody's good, everybody can play. So Americus wins. They go up and beat, I believe it was Carver, Atlanta, and you've got Rockmart beating. Burke County beating Rockmart. And let's see, who else is in 2A?
Oh, let's see. I think in 2A we had, let's see, it was Jenkins Bowden. Yes, you had Jenkins Bowden, or that's not that one. I hate how we do it. Hateville and Morgan County. Hateville beat Morgan. And then you had Burke and Rockmart. Burke got Rockmart. Carver beat Thompson, and then it's Carver Columbus. We got to start naming these teams different. Carver Columbus beat Thompson. Carver Atlanta beat Sumter. Sumter beat Carver Atlanta. So now Sumter has to battle another Carver. This time in the southern version of it in Columbus. So I think that's going to be a much harder game for Sumter. But yeah, that's where we're at in 2A.
Well, that's the closest game they've had all year. It was an 8-7 game when Carver played Sumter the first time. I believe they're in the same region, so that'll be good. In Division I AA, we had the surprise team for me. It wasn't a surprise that they won. Again, it was the nature of how they won. Pepperell beating Rabun. You had Heard County squeaking out one against Fitzgerald, another 1-point game, with what I heard was a questionable pass interference call on that last drive. But, you're always going to hear things like that this time of year in games that are close like that. You had Toombs County beating Northeast Macon, which that was kind of figured that was going to happen. Northeast had a good run, entered the playoffs without their starting quarterback, got hurt last game of the season, so that kind of caused a bit of an issue there, but still a good game there. And you had Worth County beating Gordon Lee. Gordon Lee went down there and did a good job, and they played a bunch of kids that they don't have any kids like that, and they don't play against any kids like that, and they kept it close, did a good job there. And so now it sets up which I think Pepperell and Worth County and Northeast and Toombs and Heard, and I just believe personally, I think it'll be Toombs and Worth.
Hey, it's Cole Swindell, and when I spend 200 days a year rolling down the highway, the bus can start to feel smaller than a guitar case. Everyone wonders how I stay chill while the hours crawl by. Truth is, one good luck spin on Chumba, and suddenly the trip feels a whole lot shorter. Finding your space, even when there isn't much to spare. Need some chill? Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus TNC Supply. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
What I've thought all year, and that was in Division II Single A. In Single A, Low A, you had Early County beating Screven County, and it was a great football game. So Early County moves on. You had Bowden beating Jenkins County, so Bowden moves on. No surprise there. And you had Lincoln County mollywhopping Brooks County, which was not really a surprise there. And then you've got, who's the other one that I'm missing? Oh, Clinch County and Wheeler County. Wheeler County went down. It's hard to beat them jokers down in the swamp, but they had a great year, great job by the coaches. They had a once in a lifetime group come through there, and once in several decades group come through there, did a great job of getting them together, and great season, nothing to hang their head about. So now you got some old reliables in Low A with Bowden, Lincoln County, and Early County, and Clinch County. Early County might be the only one that's not, an old reliable Single A, but they've been deep in Single A and Double A over the years. I really don't think anybody's going to beat Bowden. If anybody can beat Bowden, I think it's Lincoln County. So, that's my take on round two. I thought it was a great round two. It's down to the semis and the Final Four, and it used to be my favorite time of the year because back in the old days, the Final Four was played in the Dome instead of the finals there, and I think I enjoyed that a lot more. You got more football games, and you got to see a lot more, a lot more different teams, a lot of stuff like that. But now that we've moved to finals there, that sums that up. But we got that going on, and it wraps up that session right there. And we're going to talk a little bit briefly about jobs. But if you're a coach gearing up for the job search, you already know your portfolio can make or break your next opportunity. At coachingportfolio.com, we help coaches at every level stand out with elite professional-grade portfolios, resumes, and interview prep tools. From ready-to-use templates to custom-built documents, we take the guesswork out of the process. Whether you're chasing your first job or your dream job, be prepared, be polished, and be unforgettable. Visit coachingportfolio.com and make your next move with confidence. So with the job, the only job I saw that came open that's new was Westlake. And Westlake you can see Westlake Stadium on top of the hill from Langston Hughes' stadium. Creekside is not far from there either. Douglas County is right above you. And I mean, within a 10-mile, 15-mile radius, you've got those 4 schools, and there's apparently enough athletes in that area to go around. Sandy Creek ain't far away either. There's enough athletes in that area to go around to put up some pretty good football teams. So somebody will take that job. I don't know what the administration's like. I know you have to fight for kids down at the park, but they've had, they've produced more NFL football players than any other high school in the state of Georgia, I believe. And so they're going to have athletes, and so that could be a good job. Have you heard anything else on the job front?
Nothing else on the job front, just because of Thanksgiving. I do, there's probably 3 jobs right now that everybody's like, oh, just wait. But, everybody said, the people that I trust are telling me it's going to come open. It's just a matter of time. But, honestly, for those coaches' sake, I hope they don't, because, as much as I love new members to the GAFCA, I also hope you all have job security and aren't getting let go for, bullshit reasons like they think you should be winning state titles, but you got, a bunch of fat ankle white kids out there trying to, compete with, Grayson every Friday. It ain't going to work, and expectations matter. So I do think that there's definitely going to be one name come of interest for that Wood Lake job, just because, well, it would make sense to a lot if that person decided they wanted to come back home after straying away for a minute. But we'll definitely see how it all plays out and see if they can entice some folks back home. But that's all I got on jobs.
Well, you asked the other day about horror stories and head coaching interviews or coaching interviews, and what are some things that people want to ask when they go in and talk to superintendents and principals and athletic directors and people like that. I'll touch on, a couple of things personally, and I'll let you share the DMs you had and the questions you got, and do that, and then we'll close out with a little talk about the Final Four and wrap it up. But I've gone on ad nauseum about this when it comes to talking about jobs, and it's that now that everybody's gone to the committee model. When you walk in there, if they tell you it's a committee interview and they hand you a predetermined set of questions that they're going to ask everybody, just leave. They're not serious. Houston County's been hiring coaches like that for years, to the point that everybody knew the questions. I mean, it was kind of like passing around the answers to the clinic test. I mean, everybody knew the answers, send them to you, and just boom, do it that way, and let's rock on. Same way with that. But if you go into a place like that, you don't need to be talking to the 9th grade English teacher who sponsors the Quiz Bowl. She don't need to be asking you no questions. She's not coming to any games. She could care less. She doesn't have any idea what you're going to be dealing with on a daily basis anymore, and you know what she's dealing with. So having those kind of people in there just so they can say that they had representation and the community was involved. And, we'd like to go. The next question is going to be asked by Billy Bob Jackson. He works down at the Napa station, and he's our big booster. He's the one that drags the barbecue grill behind on Friday nights and cooks for the boys. And he'd like to ask you the next question. And then Billy Bob stumbles through a question about pedagogy and what your thinking is on having student-focused essential questions and things like that. And he ain't no more been in a classroom than I'm the Pope. And it's just laughable to me that those aren't good situations. And it's all because somebody in leadership does not want to stand up and say, I made the hire, this is my person, let's go. If it doesn't work out, it was on me, we'll go to the next one. Another thing that I'd like to bring up is, sometimes they'll go 2 rounds, sometimes they'll go 3, but it max, I love those little standardized, come in here and answer these questions. You have 45 minutes. So you're going to interview somebody for 45 minutes to determine whether or not you're going to turn them loose for the next year in very close proximity to your children and your students, and be surprised when they have an infraction or they do something they're not supposed to do, or they're not exactly what you thought they were going to be. You might want to spend a little bit more time vetting the candidates and things like that. As far as crazy questions, they're all pretty standard. I've never heard anything that was too rough or too crazy. I like going and interviewing sometimes just to see the facilities that the places have. I like the window shopping that happens every now and then. Some of the big dogs go out and they go interview, and Billy Bob gets excited again, and he's down there with his grill, and he's getting to tell all his buddies down there at the Napa station that he was part of the committee that interviewed, Coach XYZ, and he's won 37 state championships, so we're going to get him to come here. And then, of course, he doesn't. And that's always kind of fun to me to watch, too, because the people that the community think they should get and who they think should lead them and what they actually – it's kind of like the Dunning-Kruger effect. I mean, they think they're really, 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 really good at something, and they're really, really not. So I think you should leave that to administration and athletic directors if it's a separate situation, or superintendent. I do not like committee interviews. I think they're laughable, and I don't know that some of these guys that get paid what they get paid and win like they win, they're not going to come and sit down and deal with a committee. I mean, they're just not. They may do it to humor everybody, but wink, wink, nudge, nudge, the superintendent's making that call or the principal's making that call. And again, a lot of these things are done before they're even out there. I mean, I know one school's already started the interview process. It's a 2-dog race, and it's really probably only 1 dog. And if he decides he doesn't want it, or if number 2 decides he doesn't want it, that is the only way that somebody else is getting that job. And it's like that most of the time. And, I hate it that people are wasting their gas money to go down to wherever or up to wherever and drive across the state of Georgia. And because as you have pointed out, once you get below a certain point, which for you is probably I-20, you start heading into areas that don't have cell service, have lots of bugs, and quite frankly, it can get hot. Now, it ain't right now this time of year, but you can sure get lost somewhere down here quick, fast, and in a hurry. And it's just funny to me to watch these guys, especially the younger ones that complain about, why things are the way. Well, I mean, dude, you scored however many points with your middle school JV, and that's nice. And nobody needs to see on a resume what school records you set as the coordinator. That's irrelevant. They don't care, because you're not going to have those kids at the place you're going to. How are you going to treat our kids? Are you a fit with our community and our kids? And giving you whatever resources we're going to give you, will you take this job a lot of times?
No, you're 100% right. And I got a lot of great feedback. And to answer your question, I-20, yes, it's probably but honestly, if you get me down there south of I-16, which I-16 is arguably the worst stretch of road interstate in the state of Georgia, from a boring standpoint. So that might be that road for me. But no, ultimately, in all honesty, I got so many great responses from coaches who have their list of kind of must have, or must ask questions. And similar to what you said in terms of the committees, I had 3 different coaches that went in to a panel of 20 people in there, which is as stupid as you can get. It's just people putting the blame off, like, hey, guys, I got this committee. They made the decision. It wasn't me. Again, be a leader, make the decision, stand by the decision, and be, man or woman enough to say, hey, I didn't get it right, whatever. But ultimately, a lot of the questions had to revolve around where does the money come from and how much is there? And also, because basically if you have champagne taste and you have a beer budget, that's a problem, right? So you have to understand who's paying for what, where it's coming from. Are you going to have the opportunity to bring coaches with you? Are you paying out of your booster club, or are you paying out of the school supplement, or a mixture of both? I know some schools, there's schools that do a lot of different ways. I know up here in North Georgia, a lot of times the booster clubs will, match a certain amount, or maybe give you that nice Christmas present under the table. That's always very, appreciated.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Victory Lane? Yeah, it's even better with Chumba by my side. Race to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
But a lot of times that's kind of where it's at. Now, big question. Everybody knows you need to ask your football weights. Can I get everybody in football? How hard is it going to be to get in football weights? Can I get everybody in the same question? Or can I get a free period? Can I, some of these schools allow for a free period. Not any school I've been to, but if you're at a place that says, yeah, you can get a football free period, great. Let's get that free period the last period of the day, and let's go ahead and start practice. But the reality is, see what their willingness is to get your kids in the same weight room. Because, if they're already fighting you on that, it's going to be a fight for everything else. I would also make sure you know exactly who you are reporting to. Who's making the hire? Who's making the hiring and firing decision? I need to know exactly who it is I answer to first and foremost. I don't want to go above anybody on the chain of command. I want to answer to my boss. How am I going to be evaluated? Who's doing my evaluation? What are they judging me on? Are they going to be in alignment with exactly what our goals and aspirations and expectations are? Because some of the questions that were on the list of worst questions I've been asked are you got people that have asked, like, well, what are you going to use the NIL for to help us get better players? How can you use the new NIL policy in the state of Georgia to help us get better players? And, if everybody else is getting players and you're not, are you going to end up, we got to hold you accountable. And it's just like that to me, that's a completely different, you walk out of that interview going, they don't even know what the hell sport we play or what age we play. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that off every single time. I would also include what is going to be on your list. How hard is it going to be for me to get facility improvements? Or what do I need to do to make sure we continue to improve our facilities, our equipment, everything? What are those questions? What are the answers to those questions? Will tell you if it's a decent job. I mean, everybody can go and look online, and you can go on NFHS right now, watch the damn ad, have it buffer 40 freaking times, and click on the school that has an open job. You can watch them. You can see what they look like, what they move like, what their sidelines look like. You can see their fans. You can see a lot of stuff. It gives you an idea of kind of who what kind of athletes you're dealing with. But the reality is, nobody leaves jobs because of the kids. They leave it because of the administration, and they leave it because of the parents. Rarely is a coach ever going to complain about the kids. It might be a tough 8-3 job, there's no doubt about it, but they still find a way to love on the kids, and they enjoy the kids, and they kids. It's the dumbass parents and the absolute tone deaf administration. Like, again, like you said, if the volleyball coach is in there or the softball coach is in there, and they want to ask you about, well, how are you going to connect with the players? I mean, same way I always connect with players. That's a stupid ass question. It's a stupid ass question. And I think that when you get these, like, I'm going to go download my list of interview questions to ask somebody, that tells me y'all don't give a shit about this either. Because if you can tell that these people have zero clue how to interview somebody, again, that's not what you want to be a part of. Do you actually have people in there that, the perfect scenario, have the superintendent, AD, and maybe the principal in there. Have 3 people in there. Y'all have the discussion and go through it. But I just don't need the opinions of the, Booster Club president. I don't, because the reality is there's a chance that I'll be my Booster Club president. I mean, God bless them, but I need people that all row in the same direction, understand what we got to accomplish. And if that person is loyalties are with the other guy, it's something against them. It's exactly why you need your coordinators. You need to be able to go and hire your own coaches. It's nothing against the guys who were there with the previous staff. It's just the new voices need to come in because you hope that those other voices were bought into the previous coach. So, there's definitely a lot of there's a lot of questions that you can ask and should ask, and it all revolves around how do you see the expectations of the job and what your vision is, and you got to align it with the questions that you can ask. You got to sit there and go, all right, I know I need to do X, Y, Z in order for us to be successful. So what are the barriers to entry? How are they going to be helpful or hurtful in that process? And ultimately, I think that's where you're going to find what are you willing to put up with to be a head football coach? Because there's a lot of bad jobs that that are open, especially this early, and they're going to be open again in 2 to 4 years. But somebody's going to take that job because they believe that they might be the answer there. They also might not have asked the right questions. They wanted to be a head coach bad enough, so they agreed with shit. And that's the reality. You got to challenge people on why wasn't the previous guy successful in their opinion? How about that? What do you believe could have been done differently with the previous staff? That's an appropriate question to ask. I'd get that answer in a heartbeat because that's a softball for you to combat with. But it's also one that if you hear that, well, they weren't running the right offense, they're going to be a pain in your ass from the jump. So, understand that, like, again, you can ask that question. To me, that's number one. That is the number one question I'd ask. So what was wrong with the other guy? Why'd you let him go? In your opinion, what could he have done better? What is the thing that y'all feel is missing? And if you like their answer, now you got your softball response, and you can sell that like, ice to an Eskimo. Or it's a stupid ass answer, like they weren't running the right offense or they didn't have the right kid at quarterback. Okay, well, be an asshole back and say, well, who is the right quarterback and who is the one that judges who the right quarterback is? Just to screw with them. That'd make me happy, and please record it if you do and send it to me. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at with these jobs. Is don't be afraid to ask the hard questions, because at the end of the day, you'd rather go out knowing that you asked those questions than saying, man, I wish I would have. So that's what I got on that.
Yeah, I'm two things to add to that, and then we'll close it out for the day because we pretty much covered round 3, and we'll just outro after that. But I put on X the other day that everybody should have a number in their head of what it would take in a set of circumstances that need to be met for you to take a job, whether it's a head coaching job or an assistant job. And I was just jokingly saying, and I mean, not really joking, I have a number. Well, if I have a number and I'm not trying to get a head coaching job and I'm not trying to go anywhere, but I have a number, then you guys that are out there trying to get head coaching jobs, you definitely need to have a number. And I had someone DM me and was like, well, how do you come to that number? I was like, well, I mean, I think about how much I get paid now, how much I get bothered where I'm at now, my living situation where I live now. Do you have the same kind of setup there? If you do, is the housing market comparable to what I'm dealing with here? Am I going to be able to live on a top 40 in the state of Georgia golf course in the house that I live in there? And if not, then the price just went up, because you're asking me to leave a situation and move my family out of a situation that, quite frankly, it isn't terrible. And, so I would just, personally, I'd be up front with them and just say, hey, man, I don't think you can afford me. And if they say, try me, throw them their number at you. And if they say that's not going to be a problem, get it in writing. Then get in the car and go down there. Don't waste your time and worry, because that's important. That's important. And, a lot of these jobs, I'll tell you this, if you ask them what they think the problem was and the superintendent or the principal looks at you and says, well, coach, it really, this football program, these games were lost 14 to 18 years ago in a dirt road in a local county. And if that's their answer, I might go work for them, because at least they're being honest. At least they're telling you the truth. And that's really all you can ask for. But as Coach said, make sure you're informed. Make sure you ask good questions. Make sure you ask the right questions. And let us know whatever you would like for us to talk about next week. We're going to have recaps on the semis as we head into the finals. Well, at least one group's going to head into the finals. We'll have another semifinal week next week in 5A. Other than that, it's been a great week, Coach. You got anything to close it out?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that any of the folks that are listening in Banks County and Commerce realize that, Banks County went non-region, which I think is the right move for them. I think that in order to give Mark Allers an opportunity to build something, they definitely need to go non-region, because it just hasn't benefited them. But in a little bit of a surprising twist, they did elect to not play their crosstown rival Commerce, and I don't believe they're playing East Jackson. I don't believe they're playing Franklin County. I don't know who the hell they're playing that's going to bring any kind of a gate. Disappointing, to say the least, because the communities, in Banks and Commerce, whether, that's cousins playing against cousins, it's families playing against families. It's a very, they're split apart by, just going over the interstate at Banks Crossing and going over to the Tanger Outlet side of things instead of the Walmart side of things. So the reality is, you've got no reason not to play the game. But again, if you want to admit that you're afraid of getting that ass whipped, then that's fine. Just say it. Don't say it's a scheduling thing, because it's not. A lot of stuff is dictated based on being able to play that game, and you would have been in the same region. And then after the decision to go non-region was put in place, you made that decision. So if anybody in that Banks County or Commerce camp can definitely make sure that they have their opinions felt, I think giving some folks a call might help move that needle, because ain't no contract has been signed yet. So let's see if we can't make that happen, because it needs to happen for the communities. It needs to happen for the dang Boots Club budgets, because those are two very, very big gates. Whether you get your ass kicked or not, they're big gates. Get over yourselves and play each other. I don't care if you don't like a coach at either school. I don't care if they don't get along. Leadership step in and say, no, guys, we're playing the game. It helps every other sport, because I know as well as you do, you might think you're a basketball school, but guess what? An 0-10 football team still brings in more money. So figure it out. But that's all I got. Again, I encourage anybody to ever DM me. I look forward to reading DMs from Banks County folks after they listen to this, and they're going to get a little butthurt. But hey, God bless them. it's the name of the game. Don't get your feelings hurt. It's satire, man, somewhat.
Well, thanks, Coach, as always, for being on with us. I'd like to remind everybody, as Coach just said, relax, it's just satire. Those of you still chasing this week, coach hard, coach fast, and have fun. Thanks for listening.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Victory Lane? Yeah, it's even better with Chumba by my side. Race to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
If you work in university maintenance, Grainger considers you an MVP because your playbook ensures your arena is always ready for tip-off. And Grainger is your trusted partner, offering the products you need all in one place, from HVAC and plumbing supplies to lighting and more. And all delivered with plenty of time left on the clock, so your team always gets the win. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, visit Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.